Hi there, my name is Wilson Goins,
And my name is Shane Downs.
and this is our final presentation for Gators for Honor, which is our senior project. Our advisor is Dr. Blanchard. Proctoring is essential, but setup is painful. A common problem that we face with proctoring nowadays is that there are only a few tools which dominate the commercial space. Respondus, Lockdown Browser, and HonorLock are two of these tools, which the University of Florida pays $1,000 a year to use. Safe Exam Browser is another proctoring service which is built open source, so it's free to use, and we could own all of our data. The issue with Safe Exam Browser is that it's not natively built in or integrated into Canvas in the same way that the commercial tools are. As a result, the setup process for instructors is painful. It can take upwards of 30 minutes, and the experience for students is not pleasant. It's an unfamiliar tool which offers a few different disadvantages. The research question that we went into this whole semester with was, can Safe Exam Browser deliver a student experience that is comparable to commercial proctoring tools? And can we build a unified tool that eases the setup burden for instructors? Keeping these two themes of instructor workflows and student experiences at the forefront of our minds was key throughout this semester. It influenced a lot of our technical decisions and how we went about our project. Our solution is Gators for Honor, which is a native LTI 1.3 application that exists within Canvas. LTI stands for Learning Tools Interoperability, and this is the main way that Canvas chooses to integrate third-party applications into its system. Our application does a few things. It helps to configure the lockdown by offering several different SEB security presets to instructors when they begin configuring their quiz. It generates the .seb files which are needed to launch the quiz. It automatically updates Canvas instructions so that students know exactly what to do on exam day, and it offers management for each individual quiz that an instructor has configured. This takes setup time from upwards of 30 minutes with several errors down to less than 3 minutes, with validation built in. The architecture and tech stack we use is shown on screen. Our front end was built with Next.js, TypeScript, and ShadeCN for our front end library. Our back end is Node.js and Express. Our database is Postgres, which we manage through a cloud-hosted DBMS called Neon. And we integrated with Canvas LTI 1.3 for our application, the Canvas API for a lot of the work we did silently on the back end, and OAuth 2.0 for validation and authentication of users, which are the students. Our application is deployed via DigitalOcean Droplet for the front end and back end of our LTI app, and then we use a Cloudflare tunnel to expose the endpoints of our local Canvas instance. Now we're going to get into a live demo and show you what exactly our application looks like. So right here, you can see this is our local instance of Canvas. We're logged in currently as an administrator and a teacher. So we can go to our class and you can see that we already have a few quizzes created. So we have a final presentation quiz and Rob's new quiz. You can see that Rob's new quiz has already been configured, so it requires SEB appended to the end of it. We can open our LTI app, which exists right here in the sidebar, and that's going to pull up all of the quizzes that currently exist for this course. So you can see this quiz is already configured, so it says published and SEB secured, and you can see the settings here that currently exist. We can also edit the settings by going here, cancel. For a quiz that's not yet configured, we can press the configure button, and we can select from various different presets, which will change the security settings. If we wanted to set quit password, we can go down here and that will open this pop-up and we can write quit password, and then access codes are randomly configured and we ensure the proper length is met. So access codes must have 5 characters. This is something that is important to us so we can validate as we go and teachers don't face errors. This pop-up here tells you exactly what will happen after you press save configuration. So we'll update the end of the exam title. It will update the instructions so students know exactly what to do on the day of the exam, and we'll enforce the access code without ever showing it to the students. So we can press save SEB configuration, and it'll tell us that it's saved. Now, if we come over to our quizzes, we can see that final presentation now requires SEB appended to the end of it. And if we click it and view this as a student, this is exactly the screen the students see when they go to take their exam. So it instructs them to download Safe Exam Browser, the proctoring service, and then they click here to launch the exam. What this will do is it'll take them through an OAuth authentication screen so that Safe Exam Browser knows who they are once they launch their exam. And we can't take the exam because we are viewing it as a student and we're not an actual student, which is by design. Here with an actual student account, you can see now we are an actual student. Then we can go over to our quiz and we can see the same instructions. And if we try to take the quiz, we obviously can't take it because we don't have the access code. And that's by design, so that SCB is required. And now we are authenticating, and it will download our exam configuration file here. And then you can see the instructions just say that all you need to do is open the file and it'll launch the exam. And we can't show exactly what happens because then it will launch the proctoring service and then we can't record this. But once the file is launched, it will load up the proctoring service and it'll open you right to this page, but with the access code already injected so that once you press take quiz, it will start the quiz right away.
All right, so some key technical decisions we made when we were developing our project was we started off at the beginning of the semester creating a web application using the Canvas API that we thought we could get a MVP made that could achieve everything that we wanted to do for this project. But after some feedback from our advisor, Dr. Blanchard, we realized that an LTI 1.3 application directly in Canvas is the most seamless and easy way for instructors to configure quizzes. So we went that route instead. For the Canvas API three-step upload, this is kind of what Wilson showed, but it's basically how the quiz title is updated and how it gives instructions for how students take their exam. Um, and then for the SCB configuration key and OAuth 2.0 validation, we have a gate in our Express backend that validates these configuration keys. Each student, when they're generated an SCB file, each SCB file has a unique configuration key. And so we validate that that student is taking that exam at that time during the exam window using our HTTP gate and on our backend. And then we also use OAuth 2.0 for the student to log into Canvas so that we can validate that that student is taking this exam with that configuration key. We use Docker containers for local Canvas development, and this is already a pre-configured workflow that the Canvas LMS GitHub repository suggested. So that's just how we've been doing local development with this so far. So now you may be wondering, how do students actually feel about Safe Exam Browser? Like, is it a comparable experience in general to Respondus? And that's kind of what we sought out to do. We did a within subjects comparative study on a large undergraduate course at the University of Florida taught by Dr. Huang. Her MAS 3114 or computational linear algebra courses. We had each student take a quiz using SEB and using Respondus. So these were matched assessments. They were the same difficulty, same students taking the same quizzes, but with two different proctoring software. And so to measure how each student rated the proctoring software at the end of the quiz, we used a questionnaire with a system usability scale as well as some custom questions. But the system usability scale was our main measurement because this is an industry standard. So for the results of this study, we found that the composite system usability scale score for Respondus and Safe Exam Browser was not statistically different. You can see here that these are the mean composite scores that students ranked for each proctoring software. And we did a Wilcoxon-signed rank test to test the variation of these results, but we found that there's no significant difference in how students perceive these two. Where they do diverge, though, is in two specific questions on the 10 question system usability scale. So on question two, the question two is I found the system unnecessarily complex. And then question 10 is I need to learn a lot of things before I could get started with the system. Um, these two questions vary, or they showed statistical difference between Respondus and SEB. Students actually rated that Respondus was better in tackling these two questions. And we can we can go as far to say as the result of this or the reason for this is because SEB's manual setup makes it very difficult for students to take quizzes with SEB without any sort of LTI 1.3 integration. So we did this study before our application was deployed, so students used a manual setup. But we hope that if we were to retry this study or redo it with a similar study characteristic, we would find that these two questions are the same between SEB and respondents due to our integration. So for individual contributions, Wilson was our Scrum Master, and he was very instrumental in keeping our scrums organized and keeping us on track for each week as we went through the semester. You can see here some of the development decisions and things that he was responsible for. But as for me, I was the project manager, so I had a lot of experience with Safe Exam Browser from researching prior in previous semesters. But also, this was just something that I had been working on in the lab for a while. So I created the system architecture, and then you can see some of the other development decisions I was responsible for. So for future work and what's next, we are really looking to get this application integrated within UF's Canvas environment. And to do this, we're going to need UFIT approval. So that's going to be a whole process in and of itself. But we're looking to get that started after this submission. And we're looking to get feedback on the instructor usability of our app, as well as introduce new platforms that students can take exams on with SEB. So we look to expand this to iOS, Linux, as well as other operating systems that students use in the College of Engineering and beyond. And I would like to give a large thank you before we sign off to Dr. Blanchard, who is our faculty advisor, Dr. Huang, who helped us coordinate this user study with her students, and also Robert Conde, who is the UF Computer Engineering Lab Manager, who helped us a lot with UFIT requirements and a lot of the kind of setup that we needed for this project at the start. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.